2 minutes past 1 p.m. And as is the custom, we try to keep to time. And so good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, everybody online from wherever, whatever part of the world you might be in. We're glad to have you join us. I welcome, of course, especially the panelists who will be introduced and be speaking later. But this is supposed to be a very interesting conversation. You know, we have 1.5 hours for it, so it's something that I think we can readily shut down distractions for just an hour and a half to have this rich conversation about how we can actually use, you know, the films or the entertainment industry to propel science. So we've tagged it, themed it, science through the film lens, how we can bridge that divide. One of the things that people, you know, usually laugh about in my travels in East Africa and things, I go around and I tell them, oh, you know, if you do this, I will get you into Nollywood. And I receive a lot of favor when I make that statement, you know, because everybody seems to know Nollywood all over the place and they watch a lot of it. So once I tell them I was entering a supermarket, they were about to shut down in Nairobi, Kenya. And, you know, my host was thinking, don't they're about to shut down. I said, don't worry. You know, and I got to the door and I said, please, I just need to pick up one thing. And the lady was looking at me. I said, look, I will get you into Nollywood. And then she smiled very widely and said, go on in. And my host couldn't believe it. I said, what in the world did you just do? You know, so we're looking at that power, you know, that the entertainment industry has and how we can use that, you know, to develop science and to propagate the messages that help. And actually as a partnership, because also the film industry can benefit from, you know, the scientists and their input like they do quite a bit now in the US. You know, so again, welcome everyone. And this is the Nigerian Academy of Science webinar series. This is the 9th in the series of these webinars we've been having on various topics. This is a particularly unique one with a particularly different and diverse but very rich and experienced speakers to guide us through these discussions. I'll say the Nigerian Academy of Science is the peak scientific body in peak independent scientific body in Nigeria and was founded in 1977. But then since then, it's gone through different phases. And in the last 15 to 20 years, actually, it's been going through quite some vigorous change towards being much more service providing than just being honorific. And in that regard has been, you know, looking at different ways to provide science advice or different ways to ensure and to drive evidence-informed policy making in Nigeria. On the panel list, I have many different people. I'll introduce them. I think it's best to introduce them when they're about to speak, you know, and I'll be quite on time. I'll stick to time quite a lot. I like keeping to time, especially with webinars. And but then, so I'll say to you, we have strictly 1.5 hours. I encourage the speakers to also please keep within their time limits. When you are not speaking, please keep your mics muted. Those in the audience, thank you for joining us. If you have questions, just to ensure that you do not forget what you want to ask while somebody is speaking, please look at your screen. There'll be a Q&A button below at the bottom part of your screen. Type in your question there, not just in the comment section, not just in the chat section, but there's a specific Q&A section. That's where you should put your questions. You can put comments in the chat, but please Q&A for the questions so that we can find it easily and get these panelists to respond to them. With 2 minutes to go for each speaker, there's no refined way to do this on Zoom other than for me to interrupt you with a cough or with 2 minutes to go or whatever I decide to do. So there's no better way to do that. I'm sorry. But once I do that, please hurry up and wrap up what you're saying. Thank you very, very, very much. So we'll start with a welcome address. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, who's an epidemiologist, and she's the first female president of the Academy since 1977. She's an amiable leader. Please welcome Professor Ekanem Braid, FAS. Over to you, ma.
Thank you very much, Oduniyi. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Nigerian Academy of Science webinar series number 9. Since induction in 1977, our academy has continued to work towards improving quality of life of Nigerians through the promotion and application of science and technology. Our mandate is to assist government and other stakeholders in addressing major national problems that can be solved by application of science, technology, and innovation. We contribute significantly in maintaining high standards of scientific endeavors and achievements in Nigeria through specific interventions, as well as publication of journals, organization of conferences, seminars, webinars, workshops, and symposia. Also, recognition of outstanding contribution to science in Nigeria and the development of a working relationship with other national and international scientific bodies and academies. The Nigerian Academy of Science is the national representative on the International Science Council, the Inter-Academy Partnership IAP, and the Network of African Science Academies, NASAC. We align with activities of these and other bodies and replicate development-related activities initiated by them. The benefit of networking with other disciplines in addressing national and global problems is a strong lesson we have learned over the years. This Science and Entertainment Exchange, otherwise known as the Exchange, is a program of the American National Academy of Science, NAS, which we want to align with. We see clearly the value of using the vehicle of entertainment media to deliver messages about science, and we decided years ago to move in that direction. The theme of the webinar holding today reflects our desire to bridge the gap between the science and other disciplines, in this case, the entertainment industry. Our speakers will talk us through the benefits of science and entertainment interplay. They will review the challenges and prospects of bridging the science-entertainment gap in Nigeria and point us to strategies which we must adopt as we proceed with fostering collaboration between our academy and the entertainment industry as we address national problems. At this point, let me appreciate Rick Lovett, Program Director of the Science and Entertainment Exchange, U.S. National Academy of Science; Yinka Oduniyi, President, Independent Television Producers Association of Nigeria; Professor Gabriel Ogunmola, FAS, Chancellor, Lead City University, Ibadan, past President of the Nigerian Academy of Science; and Kiki, Omeili, a Nollywood actress, for making time in their busy schedules to share their experiences with us in this webinar. On behalf of fellows of the Nigerian Academy of Science, I welcome you all to this event and wish you all a rewarding experience. I trust that at the end of this webinar, we will fully resolve to promote movement of research outcomes out of the laboratories into the public eye. I thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you very much, ma'am. That was Professor Ekanem Braid, FAS, the president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, giving us a welcome address. So moving on very quickly, because 1.5 hours runs pretty fast. Moving on very quickly, I would like to introduce first and lead speaker, Rick Lovett, who the Nigerian Academy of Science actually since 2015 has partnered quite closely with the U.S. National Academies, who are now known as the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine in the U.S. and we've had varied collaborations on different programs. Rick Glover directs a program of the National Academy of Sciences in the US, and that program is called the Science and Entertainment Exchange. So Rick's office is actually based in Los Angeles. The Academy's main offices are in Washington, D.C. area, but he's based in Los Angeles, where Hollywood is. The mission of that program, that Science and Entertainment Exchange program, is to inspire better science in Hollywood by introducing entertainment professionals to great science communicators. Since its launch in 2008, the exchange, as it's called, has completed more than 4,000 consults, which include the movies Big Hero 6, Captain Marvel, and of course the very popular Wakanda movie Black Panther. During his time at the exchange, the program has produced more than 400 events targeted at a network of more than 7,000 Hollywood professionals in Los Angeles, New York, Austin, and many other places. Please welcome with me Rick Glover.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here. I want to thank the Nigerian Academy of Sciences. I'm really thrilled to be here today, and I'm just going to dive right in. I've started my clock, and here we go. Can you all see my first slide? Okay.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. All right. Science Entertainment Exchange. I want to tell you a little bit about our philosophy, a little bit about what I think has allowed us to have a pretty far reach and exert some soft power in Hollywood, you know, sort of explain why our philosophy is a little bit different than a lot of other programs that have tried to operate in this space. So I work for the National Academy of Sciences, the oldest honorific science institution in the United States. We were founded in 1863 by President Abraham Lincoln to stand outside of the federal government and be a voice of sort of the gold standard of science. As was mentioned, we're comprised of the National Academy of Sciences, National Academy of Engineering, and the Institute of Medicine. Our normal audience is Congress. Generally, they commission studies. Anyone can commission a study, but Congress is our largest customer, I guess you could call them. And so really what we do when the United States Congress would like to know where the state of the state is on any topic in science, they commission a study. That's sort of our traditional role in the United States, is to sort of, whatever the topic is, we will give them a peer-reviewed gold standard report on what the state of the state is on any topic. And so in 2007, the president of the National Academy of Sciences at the time, Ralph Cicerone, stood up in a meeting, and he wanted to know why it was that when he was a little boy, the scientists in the movies tended to be the good guys, and lately they seem to always be the bad guys. So he took a meeting in early, best known for directing and producing a movie called Airplane. They also did a movie called Ghost, you may have heard of, Top Secret. They're basically Hollywood royalty. And from that, we launched an initiative to engage filmmakers and scientists, or entertainers and scientists. We launched, as I mentioned, November 2008, and basically set up a phone line, and we didn't know if anybody was going to call us. And I, by the way, started the program about 2 months after we launched. Actually, by the way, that's not an actual phone number, but there is an actual phone number, 844-NEED-SCI, that any writer, producer, director, creative person in Hollywood can call, and we answer the phone. We literally, it's literally a Hollywood hotline. So with our consultations, we didn't know if anybody would call us, but basically from the moment we launched, we started getting people coming in and asking us questions. Now, this is where I get into a little bit of the philosophy. You know, you would think that as the national academies, we might take the position, not me personally, it's not my job to actually know the science, it's my job to know the scientists, but that we actually do know it all. But actually, that's not been our approach generally. Our approach has been that we know the science, but we don't know how to tell a great story, and that we're not trying to be the accuracy police on Hollywood. What we're trying to do is create inspirational moments where filmmakers want to use the science to go out and tell the stories. We recognize the story is always going to trump the science when you're in a Hollywood meeting. And what the best you can really hope for when you're in these situations, unless you're actually producing the content yourself, is to go in and advise. So with this philosophy, as was mentioned at the beginning, we've done over 4,000 consults. We've had a lot of opportunity to be in a lot of rooms. I think that one of the more influential projects, larger projects we were able to advise, where people who've seen the movie would really see how we affected the film and the story, was the Avengers Endgame. Pretty much, if you've seen that movie, there is a time travel component, and essentially all of the time travel was based on actual physics of time, based on consults with Caltech physicists. I'm happy to talk more about individual consults if folks are interested in that, but I'm happy to do that in the Q&A. So one of the big things that we get a lot is sort of, what if Hollywood gets it wrong and they, in spite of our best efforts, the science is still incorrect? We've had a few examples, more than a few examples of projects we've worked on that have science in them that we don't necessarily endorse and wouldn't say is particularly accurate. But what we can say, and again, I can talk about specific examples if folks are interested in this, any opportunity to engage on a topic is an opportunity to be in the press, to be actually talking about the real science behind something. I'll give you a quick example of that. There's a film released in 2015 that we consulted on called San Andreas that starred Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And we did an extensive consult on that through the California Seismology Center at USC. And in that film, it portrays California being cleaved clear off of the United States and basically falling into the Pacific Ocean, which, don't worry, that won't happen. But what we were able to do is highly influence the Paul Giamatti character in that film, who played a scientist at Caltech, or some fictional version of Caltech. And he was able to give people good advice on what you should do during an earthquake. In fact, there's a scene where a character runs into a doorway, which is sort of the standard. A lot of people think that's what they're supposed to do in an earthquake. And his character grabs that person, brings them under a table, says, no, this is the safer place to be. So for us, it's an opportunity to still talk about it and get into the press with the right information, even if the film doesn't necessarily portray everything accurately. So, but how do we get more of the science that we actually want? Because when filmmakers call us, we are being reactive. How do we be proactive and actually plug in filmmakers to the science we want to share? Well, there are a couple of strategies of that. One, I like to say I've had 1,000 bad turkey sandwiches in Los Angeles. A lot of this is just on the ground networking. But also, we do lots of events. Pre-pandemic, we were doing probably 20 events a year. We're restarting that now. Our goal is to be up into 20 again in 2024. So those events are in a variety of formats. We do salons in fancy people's homes. Yes, that guy on the beach, that is actually a house, which that person was, anyway. We also do panel sessions at places like the Directors Guild, SAG, the Writers Guild, different educational institutions. Anywhere where there is a good-sized theater, we're happy to put on a panel or a screening. We also do tours. Those tours can include labs. As you can see, there are a couple of people holding, there's a guy holding a gun right there. For us, engineers in the military are actually a great entry point to bring in filmmakers, because they want to do the demos, they want to ride on the Humvee or whatever. But for us, it's an opportunity to talk about the science behind what keeps our troops safe. We also do we go into the kinds of places where Hollywood is meeting anyway. So we have our science speakeasy events where we go into bars and speakeasies and places around Los Angeles that are sort of more intimate to give science talks. During the pandemic, we pivoted into video, Zoom events. We did, I think we did 65 or 70 events during the pandemic over Zoom, as well as our Ask a Scientist series. If you are interested in either of those, you can see the Ask a Scientist series on YouTube, and you can also find every event we did during the pandemic on our website. We are going to try to do more with, streaming events into the future, but for now, those are the events that we have up. And the goal of those events is to inspire more science story by the science that we think is cool. And so, what's the point of all of this stuff? Why are we doing this? Well, when we started our program, 80%, there was a stat that one of my colleagues threw out, 80% of Americans didn't know a scientist. Of the 20% of Americans who said they did know a scientist, 80% of them were thinking of their doctor. For us, Hollywood is no different. And by not knowing a scientist, it means that you're not relating to a scientist. You're not thinking about how a scientist would approach a problem or deal with a situation. And that's reflected in character. And if we have an opportunity when these characters are being created to get into those rooms and bring a great communicator in to inspire a story at a particular moment, we know that not only is the content of what that person shares going to be important, but also the relationship with that person and also that person in and of themselves. So we have examples throughout the history of our program where the scientists themselves have been sort of that unexpected in the United States. My boss, for example, says stale, pale, and male is sort of the stereotype of what a scientist is. So anytime that we can bring a person in who changes that stereotype just by having them walk through the door and taking the meeting, they're going to affect characters that appear on screen. From the Hollywood point of view, what's in it for them? When you build a world around science, you have that true north. You have that backbone to which you can refer. And we've done that. Actually, Black Panther is a really good example of where scientists created that touch point where everybody referred back throughout the whole production to, they basically created what they call the show Bible for all the departments, the art department, the actors, the director, and it was the science of Wakanda. It was the world, it was the anthropology, it was everything about Wakanda. And that was informed by 3 or 4 different scientists who we provided based on the science they were asking for. So when you have that, arguably, you're going to get a better story, you're going to get a more logically consistent world. And that's helpful for everybody when it comes to storytellers. So why are we doing this? Well, we're not actually doing it because we ultimately want the screenwriters to learn the science. We're doing it because we are aware that if you bring trusted voices into people's living rooms, that they will be impacted, more likely to change their mind, more likely to at least be open to the possibility of things that are antithetical otherwise to their worldview. And there's good data to support this. And this sort of informal learning, actually, unfortunately, in the United States, informal science learning tends to, well, when you look at lifelong learning in particular, tends to take the first place over actual formal science education. And we know that we're operating in that space. And so if we're going to be able to, debunk some things or communicate science to the public, I'm not saying this is the only route. The National Academy of Sciences is doing lots of other communications initiatives to reach out to the public. But this one is an important component in trying to reach people by humanizing science. So actually, that's my talk. And I got through 32 slides in 14 minutes. I'm happy to cede the time back for Q&A, or if there's anything else I can answer.
That's amazing, Rick. And I can't agree with you more, which is really why we're having this, because we believe that you need to take the science to where people live. You need to find a way to connect it and change the stereotypes, about science, get people more interested, using the vehicle of entertainment. I think that's very effective, and we're on a journey. So really, you can bet we'll still keep, calling on you and all that. We're on a journey here, so we're learning from what you're doing. I've had the privilege of looking at your program a little bit. Now we'll put the microscope and look even closer in the next few months to years to build something effective, because just like Hollywood is quite big and effective, impactful all over the world, Nollywood is, not too far behind. And we think we have a very effective vehicle to use in Nigeria. So that's why we're talking about this. Thank you very much for that presentation. Your slides, the numbers scared me when I saw them earlier, but you did assure me you can get through them. So thank you. So we have speaking next. Sorry, just a second. We have speaking next. The president is of Independent TV Producers Association of Nigeria, my good friend, the Yinka Oduniyi, who's a media professional with over 25 years of experience in that industry. Is a prolific content creator with extensive experience actually, in directing, producing films, TV shows, game shows, reality shows, commercials, documentary, and everything else. Also has experience as a technical director. He has held various leadership roles, including serving as the president, which I said, of Independent TV Producers Association of Nigeria. He's the president of Brazil Culture and Business Initiatives, the CEO of Jala TV, and a member of the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture Task Force. He also serves as a media consultant to one of our most prominent kings in the country, the Ooni of Ife. And his exceptional work led to his appointment as a culture ambassador. Yinka has international experience as a producer director that spans across Africa, Europe, USA, and South America, and he has pioneered and created several successful shows across those regions. He'll be talking on bridging the science entertainment gap in Nigeria, the challenges and prospects. I must say that he's also one of the first people we've spoken to before COVID came about developing a program like this in Nigeria. He was one of the first we spoke to and had a meeting or two with him, and actually did collaborate even under COVID. I know he came up and spoke about, what can they do to get the right messages out, and actually interviewed one of our past presidents on that, took his whole crew, did a little recording that was shared, disseminated widely. So thank you very much. Please welcome Mr. Yinka Oduniyi.
Right. Thank you very much for having me. I don't have a slide to present, but for us, I think it's important that we realize where we are.
So you have your video. Is that possible? So that at least we'll see if we don't see slides.
Let's see. I'll try that now. Just give me a minute. So I'm actually using my handset. That's why.
It's just that when it's your beautiful smile, and all that keep us going.
Okay.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yeah, so it's a wonderful opportunity. I thank you very much. I thank the Nigerian Academy of Science for this opportunity. Science in our industry, Nollywood, is still fairly untapped and unexplored, largely because quite a number of writers and producers view science as something that is boring and hard. So tendency usually when they write scripts is just stay within the realm of, you find that somebody goes to a doctor and they go to the hospital and, they stay generally within that realm. But in terms of delving deep and, using science as a platform to narrate, and bring alive certain stories, it's still very nascent within Nollywood. But times have changed, times are changing, and with more of this sort of forums, I believe a lot of filmmakers will be inspired to view science through the film lens. I'm just going to read through a short presentation, then we'll go straight into discussing one or two things. So as Yinka Oduniyi, President of the Independent Producers Association of Nigeria, IPAN, I stand before you today with a mission that reaches beyond the boundaries of entertainment and education. Our purpose goes to the very heart of inspiring younger generations in Nigeria to embrace science, a catalyst for innovation and the backbone of a nation's development. In a world where scientific achievements like India's recent lunar landing captivate our imagination, we are reminded of the boundless possibilities that lie ahead. Our ancestors, visionaries of their time, were in essence great scientists, pioneers who achieved remarkable feats through profound understanding of science. Consider the awe-inspiring achievements of our forebears, the grand works of art and architecture that stands as testaments of their scientific prowess, from the architectural marvels of ancient Nigeria to the extraordinary craftsmanship of Ife's terraculture figures. These accomplishments could only be realized through deep grasp of science. Today, as we gather to explore science through the film lens, we recognize that inspiring the younger generation to embrace science is not just a noble endeavor, it is the key to Nigeria's competitiveness in the world driven by innovation. Just as our ancestors harnessed the power of science to create wonders, so too can our modern storytellers channel the force of science to inspire, educate, and elevate. Together, I believe we can unveil the boundless potential of merging science and cinema, empowering our youth to embrace the spirit of discovery and fueling Nigerians' ascent on the path of innovation and progress. For me, that is really the way I believe Nollywood can and should, use science, in terms of storytelling. I've been tasked with giving 3 points to discuss. And before I do that, I just briefly wanted to think it's important to note that typically when we talk about science, we usually see science as something that is modern, that started after, our time. Science has been with us, like I said earlier on, our ancestors has proven they've done great things in terms of medicine, in terms of art, in terms of architecture and science in time past. So science is not new to us. But how do we now recognize those ingredients and weave them into our narrative? That is a challenge that the modern storyteller now has. And I think the solution to that starts with better engagement and understanding of, how science can impact modern day. So I was asked to discuss 3 topics. One, the disconnect between science and the creative industry in Nigeria. First of all, I would say there's a huge lack of awareness. Now, the first line of defense when we talk about the disconnect in science and creative industry, it will be the writers, those who start with the writing of the story. There's a lack of awareness. I've sat with writers who, will sit in a room and conjure up different doctors' prescriptions and words and things. And I would say, have you shadowed a doctor? Have you sat with a doctor to ask, how do you go about doing these procedures? They don't. They try to draw it up. And I said, you can't do that. If you are, even though you are suspending disbelief, that suspension must also be rooted in his real life. So there's usually a lack of awareness among storytellers, in saying, I can access, this is the way I need to go about this. That leads me to my second point, which is limited access. A lot of them also have limited access. Right until now, we did not know we had access to the Nigerian Academy of Science, as partners who we can run to and say, okay, we are working on this. Can you give us resource people? Can you give us more information on some things like this? And I'm happy that this forum is happening. So that can open up a whole lot of opportunities that would ensure that, we're able to overcome this limited access. Most times, I also find, when our storytellers are trying to, write their stories, we have different priorities. They don't see science as something that is exciting. I'm a big fan of I think it was a 70s cartoon. It's called The Jetsons. I don't know if anybody here on the panel has, have watched The Jetsons. It's a cartoon series about this space age family living in space. And as far back as the 70s, on some of those episodes, you find them doing video calls. This is in the 70s. Mobile phones have not even been invented as we see today. But the creative industry has been able to dream such things. And it's interesting to note that sometimes creativity can lead science. And I mean, in modern day, science has followed that. And today we are all conversing through video chats. So I see, if we're able to inspire, and share more of this, we're able to give access to a lot of our creative people to see the possibilities that are bound. Second thing I'm supposed to talk about is the effect and the disconnects of both industries. Simple. Yes. Lack of loss of education. There are no bridges. There's no education opportunities. There are no forums that are created for us to interact. And I'm happy again that this is happening. This allows us to be able to engage and see possibilities. The key speaker spoke about, in the US, they create different workshops and forums. They are always on the move to engage storytellers. And I think this is very important in bridging that divide. Science is exciting. I studied microbiology as a first degree, so I know science is exciting. And I know definitely science and creativity can merge, but we constantly need to continue to reinforce and show the people in the creative sector, those aspects of it. Again, like I said, it's not alien to us. It's only about us shining the light on it and allowing them to see possibilities. I'll give an example. What is the difference between Shango and Thor? Thor wields a hammer, commands the lightning and thunder. Shango wields Yoshi. Shango commands lightning and thunder. There's no difference. So what am I trying to say? We only need...
I'm not sure people know Thor. If you
Thor from the series.
Yes, so that's an American superhero.
Yes. From the Avengers series. The key speaker spoke about Wakanda. Right. So Thor is one of the Avengers. So he wields the hammer. And you see those similarities. So how do we wield our own stories and use science, interpret it through the lens of science? So it's not just archaic. You bring that narrative to the modern world. Teleportation. How do I let people know that, okay, my ancestors have been teleporting? They only do it differently.
I hope I'm not throwing you off, but someone just commented and said Thor is Shango that went to Harvard.
Absolutely. Teleportation. You see it a lot in a lot of the Star Wars movies where you're able to move a matter from one space to the other. Well, back in our own narrative, our forebears would only put one leg up, concentrate on where they are going, and they would appear in the same place. As teleportation. What I'm just trying to say in a nutshell is certain things in our narratives are not new, but how do we then use modern day science to interpret that and make it exciting and re-energize the younger people to embrace science? Because without innovation, a nation would die without innovation. And the Nollywood industry is very influential, and we need to cultivate them to embrace science and include it in a lot of the narrations that they are putting out there, so that we can inspire. I'm not sure how long I've taken and how many more minutes I have, but then recommendations, awareness campaigns, science advisors, grants and funding, science festivals, education and training, networking events, incentives, content partnerships, which the key speaker has spoken of. We would love to borrow a lot from what he said and what has worked in their own environment, and see those that we can adapt into our own industry. And hopefully, very soon would see great things coming out of Nigeria and Nollywood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Oduniyi. Really, really good comments. And I, of course, you kept to time. I would have actually, prompted you, so you are still on time. Thank you very much. You brought in that side of indigenous knowledge, so that's important to note. And you talked of that big disconnect. I remember Kiki, who will still speak. I think she's the last speaker. Kiki is actually a medical doctor by training and an actress, and telling me sometime being on set and they were acting out a medical scene, and she was not the one doing that, and nobody even consulted her to say, how do we do this right? So that's the kind of disconnect we're talking about. So you have a medical doctor who's on set, and you're not even asking her, can you take a look at this? Is this correct? So we hope things will improve. Okay, Rick, you want to start typing in answers? That's fine. You can type in answers. Okay, so we have next Professor Gabriel Ogunmola, who is a past president of the Nigerian Academy of Science. He is also the Chancellor, past Chairman Board of Trustees for Lead City University based in Ibadan, Nigeria. He wrote the first implementation plan for the first national science policy for Nigeria in 1988. And he's a chemist. He's a renowned chemist. And as an international lecturer, he engaged students at undergraduate, postgraduate levels, research in biochemistry, genetic chemistry, biotechnology, database development, IT-driven services and technology in Africa. Since retirement from the University of Ibadan in 2005, he established the Institute of Genetic Chemistry and Laboratory Chairman. And like I said, more importantly to us at the Academy, he is a renowned past president of the Nigerian Academy of Science. And it's a pleasure to have Professor Ogunmola speak to us today on public engagement in science, how to leverage the creative industry. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Doing, and revered the president and presenters and colleagues on this platform. It's quite interesting to be able to be part of this. If Doing is to tell the story, we'll say that we've really been, finding ways of bringing something like this to the public. And it's delightful that we've got find a chance. I think we were talking in the past, I think the Academy tries to set up a committee involving film makers and scientists at some point. And we brought Professor Ekwasi, who was the head of the Film Institute in Jos for many years, and I think he's a professor somewhere. I think he's the first professor of film in Nigeria. He was trained in Allenberg Institute in Philadelphia. And so science and the films really is in the consciousness of many of us in the Academy. All of us that enjoy films, documentaries, and so on. And I think that the chief presenters really started to, break. Where should we start when talking about films? I think it starts from storytelling, which really is one of our strengths in Nigeria, which are lots of stories. But we're losing many of these stories because they are not being documented. We have lots of stories on myths, and myths in many places have turned out to great innovations, and the great innovations have come out as films. So how can we bring science to the rescue? Well, I've just sent a few slides just to see what are we talking about. And I think I'm talking to the converted, and I'm sure that what's filmmaking is the process of creating, developing, directing, and editing movies and documentaries for release to the public, for release to clients, or for archiving, for keeping for future generations. And I think that's quite a lot of things that goes into filmmaking. And of course, who are the filmmakers? We met, the president of the Institute of Filmmakers in the country, and they are professionals using different skills and proceeds of arts, science, and technology to create a moving picture or events, real or imagined or artificial, which brings in myths. And I just show some of the things that filmmakers carry about. I just download this picture from the web. It's not original to me. And I'm sure that we'll find many of these. Of course, we find a camera, you find, all the cables and things like that. Wow. And that immediately says, it gives us the opportunity of the arts and the science meeting. And filmmaking, as been mentioned from previous speakers, is important to societies and to cultures. And I mean, when we talk of cultures, there are different cultures all over the world. And civilization really is an interface of different cultures to produce different civilization. Filmmaking, of course, will give us opportunity. When we go to a film house and you watch a beautiful films, then you come back and start talking and start getting engaging with others and with neighbors, with community. And like many of the themes of Nollywood are topics that have been discussed here and there. I think I mentioned quite a number of, and filmmakers are really creative people. So also are scientists. So they have a common area of interest. Filmmakers are creative, they want to create. Scientists are also creative and they want to create and also do things that are useful. So bringing the two together is really going to be to the advantage of society. Now, what are the things that science has actually brought? There are many skills that science has brought. As a chemist, what is chemistry? That's a famous question. Or what do chemists talk about when they meet? I think chemistry is virtually everything. Everything is chemistry, starting from the atom to the moon, to the materials, and so on. And technology now develops from there. So science brings in a lot of, you talk of physics, you talk of chemistry, you talk of living materials and so on. They offer opportunities that filmmakers will tell stories about and also use. And today now, I mean, they've used planes even to take pictures from distances. Now drones are coming and things like that. And cameras, I mean, of course, cameras are made from lenses, and lenses are stones that are ground, I mean, from silica and things like that. Inks that we use in writing and painting come from carbon and things like that. And advanced technology of 3D has improved, not only taking 3D on the surfaces, but inside water as world. So science has a lot of skills and infrastructure to bring to bear in promoting filmmaking, or to enrich what I can call the interface between the arts and the sciences. And of course, intellectual screenplay writing and things like that can improve tremendously our educational structure. You can learn through films and things like that. If you now take the camera into the laboratory, we can depict the experiments, great experiments of the future are now well documented. And I can give one short little story. I taught at Berkeley many years ago in 76. And I was teaching the class with the Nobel Prize winners, Professor Seaborg. And Professor Seaborg, I taught the beginning of the periodic table of the elements, hydrogen, helium, lithium, and so on and so forth, excitingly. But when Professor Seaborg was going to teach the trans-uranium elements, he went into the classroom and decided the topic was how to discover the next 20 elements. I was flabbergasted. So he told them a story from the background of what has already existed. So we need storytelling. And coincidentally, and quite excitingly, this is a storytelling community and nation. And therefore, we need to strengthen our storytelling capability, documentation, communication, and next storytelling becomes an art. And from the storytelling, myths are created. From myths, then innovations are created and things like that. So really, the science and technology interface in filmmaking is going to promote a partnership that is going to be very enduring and quite lasting, not only in promoting industries that are viable into development.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Now,
barely have a minute left.
Okay, I will. Well,
yes, sir.
I just want to be able to. Now, what are we trying to do? I think the Nigerian Academy of Science has a noble role to play to be able to bring in all the scientific institutions and encourage this partnership between the filmmaking and industry, and it is a good opportunity. Of course, Nigeria has come up as one of the leading countries making films around the world. And when you talk about 10 top films in the world, I think Nigeria comes in. You have Hollywood, Nollywood, Bollywood, German cinemas, and Nollywood as well. I mean, so we are really already there. What are the famous films that are currently running in Nigeria? I don't know how many of you have been watching films, but you might have heard of Abejoye, Jagun Jagun, I mean, Anikulaku, Gangs of Lagos, and things like that. These are, I mean, I can't be telling all this story, but they are fascinating things from which they will promote both science and so on. But more instantly, what science will need to do now is how to bring in indigenous materials, creation of infrastructure, and that can promote the film industry in a symbiotic way. I want to refer that Professor Yinka's work, foremost as a playwright, has really prepared the ground. He's a specialist in theater, and all his works are precursor to the evolution of Nollywood as we know it here. So NAS must promote science and technology interface with the arts to meet the challenges of filmmaking and film industry in Nigeria. And I would like to give a concluding remark, which I've written down. It is for this reason that science and technology must interfere with the arts to meet the challenges of the promotion of filmmaking and film industry in Nigeria. To this end, science and technology institutions must work cooperatively with the entertainment industry to promote film production in various areas of national life in order to document and archive intellectual materials for value addition to the economy. The entertainment industry has progressed and has attained some prominence as Nollywood globally in the volume of films and the entertainment trade that is going on in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. The pioneering work of Professor Wole Soyinka, Nobel Prize winner in promoting the creative arts and theater in Nigeria and the African continent, are outstanding achievement as precursor of the Nollywood. And Nigeria's strength is actually in entertainment, and therefore we should build on that strength. Nigerian Academy of Science should partner with the practitioners of the creative arts and the entertainment industry to infuse more science and technology skills and infrastructure into the industries in terms of local production, infrastructures, and equipment to promote filmmaking in Nigeria and the African countries through the using of local raw material, carbon, silicon, chemical, color production, materials, sound, energy, and environment simulation. China has produced the artificial sun. We can do likewise to stimulate our environment by our inspired imagination in films. The sky is limited in the future collaboration between science and technology and the film industry and entertainment. NAS, with science and technology in our hand, we stand at an advance to promote collaboration in the entertainment industry as a great government.
Thank you very much, sir. So thank you very much. That was Professor Gabriel Ogunmola, as a past president of the Nigerian Academy of Science, also sharing with us how we can engage the public. What's the advantage of bridging that gap between the science and entertainment world? Last but definitely not least, before we then have a few minutes for questions and answers, discussions before we close, still on time. We'll close by 2:30. I have my friend Kiki Omeili, who is the only lady on this panel, speaking on this panel. So definitely last but not least, Kiki is actually a medical doctor, graduated from the College of Medicine, University of Lagos in 2006. In 2012, she got her first movie role in Married but Living Single, for which she won her first award as the Best Actress in a supporting role at the 17th African Film Awards in London later that year. Later on, she starred as Lovette in the hit drama series Lucky Wives. Also, she's won in 2015. She's gone on in starred in movies such as Bomo Express and a couple of days, and also won the Guillermo Award, Golden Icons Academy Movie Award in the USA as Best Supporting Actress for her work in Sting. In 2016, as part of her health advocacy projects, she wrote and produced her first short film about HIV/AIDS called Unprotected, which was based on true events that occurred during her medical school years. In 2018, she won Best Supporting Actress Award at the World Music and Independent Film Awards in the Caribbean for her work in the movie Threesome, a performance that also earned her a Best Supporting Actress Award at the Eco International Film Festival in 2019. And in 2018, she wrote and produced a feature film called Run, which had its theatrical release in August 2019 and won her another award in Toronto, Canada. In 2023, it was announced that she'll be joining the cast of MTV Sugar Niger. She is involved in charitable health projects and advocacy, among which are the Cerebral Palsy Foundation and Project Pink Blue Foundation against cancer. I know in 2014, I picked up a newspaper and I was reading an interview she gave, and go doctor turned actor, and I was reading through that, and I thought it was fascinating. And then just barely a few weeks later, we met. We met at the Ebola Control Center. That we had an outbreak of Ebola in Nigeria. And I was there trying to handle, science communication issues there. And then we decided we needed to engage with Nollywood to do this, to expand our horizon. And then she walks in with her friend, to help. And I said, perfect. And that's when our friendship started. So it's a pleasure today to have Kiki with us, speaking to us also on sharing information, science information through edutainment, and perhaps taking out lessons from the sugar series. So Kiki, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dwayne. I want to first start by saying a big thank you to the Nigerian Academy of Science for having me. I'm proud and happy to be a part of this. I also want to say to my fellow panelists that it's an honor to be on the same panel with you. Professor Ogunmola, Mr. Yinka, Mr. Rick, it's an honor to be here with you. Okay, so I'll be speaking on sharing science information through edutainment. And in the course of my talk, I have a 3-minute clip that I want to play to kind of like drive my point home. Okay, so what is edutainment to start with? And edutainment is a form of entertainment that aims to educate as well as amuse. And edutainment instructs an audience by embedding lessons in a familiar form of entertainment. So the way this happens is, the audience is watching a movie or playing a video game or whatever, and they are very entertained by what they're doing, but then at the same time, they're actually being educated. So I find edutainment very fascinating because as much as we all love being entertained, I personally believe that, after being entertained, you should take away a lesson or two. After sitting through a movie for an hour and a half or 2 hours, I should be able to take away something. You've entertained me, that's all well and good, but I still should be able to take away something, after sitting through that movie. So what were the relevant lessons from my sugar experience? So MTV Sugar Naija is a TV series that is powered by the MTV Staying Alive Foundation. And it's essentially a campaign which educates youths about HIV, safe sex, and teen pregnancy. Sugar also touches on maternal and child health, family planning, gender-based violence, and women empowerment. So the fantastic thing about Sugar is that it uses storytelling and peculiar situations that people can relate to teach people what to do in certain situations. The predominant story in season 5, which I was a part of, was about a young 19-year-old girl whose parents wanted to marry her off to their landlord so that they would not have to pay rent for the rest of their lives. Now, the young girl in question was a very intelligent young girl. She had developed an app. She wanted to further her education, but her parents were more interested in, in marrying her off. So essentially, the storyline takes you on a roller coaster of emotions. In the course of, watching the series, you also get to learn a lot about COVID-19, which became very relevant in the last 3 years or so. There are also, lessons about safe sex and HIV/AIDS, which are the major components that Sugar tries to address. So in the course of my acting career, Sugar has been one of the most relevant projects I've been a part of. When I say relevant, I mean relevant to my medical training. Because like Mr. Rick said, unless you're actually producing content, there's a limit to how much science information that you can embed, in a project. If you're an actress, you're an actor, and you're called to be a part of the project, there's pretty much already a script on ground at the time that you're called to be a part of that project. But then if you're producing your own content, you pretty much know what story you want to tell, and you have the freedom and the liberty to embed as much science information as you want into the content that you are producing. The target audience for Sugar are the teenagers, who are the ones that need the information most, if you ask me, because teenagers tend to engage in all kinds of, sexual activity. At that point, they're just learning about, themselves and learning about their bodies, and sex is new and it's a novelty to them. And many times when they get into trouble and they approach adults for help, unfortunately, they are met with shaming and humiliation. Adults tell them things like, what were you doing having sex instead of going to read your books, just shaming them essentially. So when they're met with those kind of responses, the next time that things like that happen, they tend to go to the wrong places for help. And that will only be to their detriment. So what the Sugar series aims to do is to provide a lot of the information that they need about things to do in certain situations and just educate them generally about safe sexual practices while also entertaining them, because Sugar is a very entertaining series. Second point I'm going to speak about is the role of Nollywood in changing social norms and practice related to science. So Nollywood is an industry that has essentially been in existence for decades. I've been watching Nollywood movies since I was a little girl, when they only existed on the VHS tapes. And I personally learned a lot of stuff from watching Nollywood movies. Things I previously had no idea about, I learned about while watching Nollywood movies. A lot of societal practices and the norms in other areas that I previously never had access to. I learned from watching Nollywood movies. And Nollywood is such a huge industry that's in the past few years, with the advent of, with the emergence of streaming platforms like Netflix and Prime Video and other online platforms, the reach that Nollywood has become so exponential, because in practically any area of the world, they have access to these movies. I remember way back in, I think maybe 2003, thereabout, whenever I was traveling to the US and I would ask, my family over there, what should I bring for you when I'm coming? The answer was always the same. They wanted Nollywood movies in the DVD form that it was sold in at the time. They wanted you to go and buy their Nollywood DVD movies and bring over to the US, because it was what they enjoyed watching, it was what entertained them. But now nobody is asking you that anymore. Why? If they want to watch Nollywood movies, they have all the online platforms, and they have access to Nollywood movies. So, like I said, with the advent of the internet and emergence of these streaming platforms, the reach that Nollywood movies has is so huge that I think it would just be a total waste, if all we did was to entertain people, and not, teach them a thing or two. If we didn't embed like the science or health information into these movies that people love watching so much. So I do think that we as Nollywood have a responsibility to, educate the audience somewhat, through these movies that they watch. So like Rick said, and I mentioned it earlier, you don't have a lot of liberty to do that if you're not producing your own content. So I took it upon myself to start producing, and then I knew that obviously as a medical doctor, there was no way I would have access to all the information that I have, and then I'll be producing a film, and I wouldn't, take the opportunity to educate people about a thing or two. So there's a 3-minute clip from a movie I produced in 2019, which is called Run. In this clip you're about to see, the character is being chased down by someone who now starts to have a seizure. Now, for the longest time in Nigeria, even when I was growing up, everybody always said when somebody is convulsing or having a seizure, put a spoon in their mouth so that their teeth does not join or it doesn't jam. And I never understood what that was all about. So in this clip that you're about to see, it essentially shows, through entertainment, of course, essentially shows what to do in the event of a seizure. This kind of clip be played now.
Please, can you confirm you can hear the audio?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Really? You told me, like, really? Of all the times to show that you have a conscience, you choose now. You choose now. Jesus, baby. I don't know what to do. I don't know what...
In the event of a seizure, you want to put the person in the left lateral position. This is to prevent the tongue from blocking the airways and to prevent the inhalation of food into the lungs. We call this aspiration. First, you have to place the left arm at a 90 degrees angle, like this. And then with your right hand, link his right palm and take his hand and place under his chin. Then you lift his right leg, making sure that the foot is on the ground. Bend it towards the left leg. The weight of his body will ensure that his body tilts towards the position that you want it to go to. Then you hold the leg in place, bend the head backwards, and then call for help.
Hello, Lagos State Emergency Response Team. Thank God. Please, you guys need to get here fast. There's a man, he had a seizure or something and he's lying down on the road. I don't know what to do. This is Needle Point Road. Okay, how long is it gonna take you to get here? Okay, thank you. Tracy.
You currently do not have sufficient credits to complete this course.
Of course, there's no credit on his freaking phone. What the hell am I supposed to do now?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so that was just a short clip trying to highlight what to do in the event of a seizure, because many Nigerians don't know what to do, and for whatever reason, they have the wrong information about what to do. So in that movie clip, you know, before he started chasing her, obviously a lot of stuff had happened. It was just an opportunity for me to embed that information, you know, into the entertainment. That's an example of how we can use entertainment to share science information. What are my recommendations for engaging the Nigerian audience? So now there are all kinds of media, you know, through which you can pass information, you know, things like documentaries and even movies and all. Documentaries have their place in passing across science information, but I personally think that documentaries only cater to a certain Nigerian demographic. Only, I mean, in quotes, educated people appreciate documentaries. Unfortunately, though, even uneducated people need access
Actually,
to
have
science
just
information.
about a minute left now.
Yeah, I'm practically done. So even uneducated people need access to this information, and they are the ones that have, you know, that watch these Nollywood movies for entertainment. So my recommendation is to embed all this information that we want them to have, you know, into this entertainment without making it obvious that that's what we are doing, because it can tend to get boring if you dwell too much on it. So in that clip you saw, right after I showed people what to do in the event of a seizure, what's the next thing we hear is a gunshot and the action continues. So, you know, people are, you know, being educated without even realizing, as far as they're concerned, they are watching a movie and they're so engrossed in the entertainment, but they're actually learning a thing or two. And that's what we should seek to do. So my recommendation would be to engage Nigerian movie producers and writers, because you can't give what you don't have. You can't share information you don't have access to. So to engage them and to encourage them to produce more of these kinds of movies that give people access to health content. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kiki. Fantastic. So thank you once again to all the panelists. We barely were a little behind time now, and we have just about 9 minutes or less, you know, to answer some questions. So very quickly, I'll throw it to you, particularly maybe to Kiki and Yinka. superstition. Professor Yinka for Lion, who's a fellow of the academy, says we have too much superstition, in Nigeria. It's a big problem. It's a big issue. And many films from Nollywood are based on these well-entrenched superstitions. So how would we correct that? How can we correct that?
Yes.
Okay.
I like to respond to that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, by telling stories, true stories, to correct the supervision, those as she has demonstrated. By providing the correct information, we can substitute for the superstition.
Right. Thank you. Thank you very much, sir.
And I think that if we go back to the academy, again, fellows of the academy, all of us, we must tell stories. And that's why the book, Why I'm a Scientist, produced by all the fellows of the academy, is important. That is all a lot of stories.
Yes. And it's good you mentioned that. It's good you mentioned that fellows have to do that, and actually scientists have to take it as a responsibility, because we must become accessible. Accessible. Okay, I'm coming to you, Kiki. So the scientists have to become very accessible. Just like we've had 1-800 daily scientists, we must be there. Okay, Kiki, your comment.
Oh yeah, sorry. Sorry for interrupting. What I actually wanted to say was that in regards to this superstition that we're talking about, like I mentioned earlier, the majority of people who watch these Nollywood movies are actually uneducated. So superstition is what they know, is what they believe, and they like to watch. When they watch movies, they like to see the things that they know and the things that they believe and things that they can relate to. So, like I said, we all collectively have the responsibility to disabuse their minds of some of these things and then gradually tilt their thinking, in the right direction through movies.
Right. So the movies shouldn't be reinforcing what they believe. They should be, making slight adjustments.
Yes.
Go along.
Adjustments, yes. But it has to be gradual. There's nothing that can just, happen suddenly. It has to be gradual. Just gradually, tilt them in the right direction.
Right.
Good.
I have a slight variation to that. And which is why I think I went slightly in the direction I did. You cannot separate the people from their superstition.
Yes.
Part and parcel. I use Shango as an example. But what science will do is to help unpack it properly and bring it to modern day. It can unpack that. What is the core of it? If you want to reach me, you've got to reach me within my reality. So if those superstitions are formed within my reality, then how do I unpack those superstitions and use it as that leverage to reach you and then give you the proper information? So I'm not discarding the superstition, but what are the good things in that superstition that I can borrow? And then I would pack it properly with science, back it up with science. And then with this,
evidence-based.
Evidence, yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So quite similarly, Professor Tomari is also a past president of the academy, also was raising an issue around the type of movies we produce, and really I'm rephrasing it in another way, which is to say a movie like 93 Days, which was about Nigeria's ability to curtail Ebola, versus our movies about the Dibias and the Babalawos, which would do better? The Jaguns and co. How would 93 Days compete if they both came out the same week in the cinemas or Netflix? What do we think would happen? And is there a way to make the scientific one and the ones about the science one more glamorous and entertaining and therefore more attractive?
Yeah, so I'd like to answer that. So easily Jagu would attract more without even thinking too much about it.
Okay, sorry, just a moment before you do, can I, Professor Tomori's hand is up. Can I give him 15 seconds to clarify further? Are you able to unmute him? Or you can only chat? Please help me.
He's able to talk now.
Okay, Professor Tomori, sir. We can't hear him yet, or he can't hear us.
He's
Okay,
probably
so
muted. Okay.
carry on, Kiki. We can't hear him.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that Jagu Jagu will easily do much better. What's the reason? Simply because of entertainment value. It's why one of the recommendations I gave was that, while documentaries have their place, if you're teaching people about something, you can't dwell too much on it because it can get boring very fast. You have to entertain them while embedding these, science or health information or whatever it is that you want them to know. You just have to make it entertaining. You just have to make it very entertaining. That is the solution. If it's not entertaining, they will not watch, and we'll lose at both ends of the stick. So it just has to be entertaining for people to be interested enough to watch. And in the process of watching and being engaged, they are learning and taking something away.
So I'd like to just pig on what she said. So there's one of my favorite series of all times. It's called Big Bang Theory. It's an American, and it's centered around 3 scientists. They are nerds, and all their lives, what they talk about is science and research. But it was packaged in such a way that made it look engaging and made it look interesting. Like I said, science doesn't necessarily have to be boring. It's a mindset. How we weave the story. The more information the writer and the producers have, the more they're able to weave it into the very fabrics of the story. So it's not an attachment. It is part and parcel. What we do right now is find a bit of fact, attach it to an ongoing story. People can detect that, okay, yeah, this is just an attachment. It's not woven into the story. But the more we interact with the scientists and with science, the writers are able to weave those narratives properly together such that everything is boring. Yes, it's possible to watch a 93 that is exciting, more exciting than a Jagu Jagu. It's possible. It's how we narrate and weave the story, create human angle stories within it, create romance within it, create so many things within it, and make them all run seamlessly, such that it's an exciting 90 minutes or more 2 hours or more.
Great. I've been touching on the questions people typed in the Q&A. For taking the effort to type in there, I looked there first, and Sadia Bindi is also wondering, what really, practically speaking, can we do? And she's saying, especially Kiki and Yinka, what exactly, because we can talk, but how do we, especially given that both of you, Yinka studied microbiology, Kiki medicine, what are the best ways to kick off this thing we're talking about and ensure that we can explore science better in those stories? So practically speaking, just drop it. Number 1, let's do this. Number 2, let's do this. 3.
Yeah, I already said it in my recommendation. You have to engage the producers and the writers and other stakeholders in the film industry because they can't give what they don't have. A producer wants to produce a movie, they're going to look for an interesting or exciting drama that is going to captivate people's attention and hold their interest, and that's what they're going to produce. So if we don't engage them, by practically having meetings with them or workshops or whatever it is, to let them know that it's our responsibility as a film industry to educate people through these movies that you produce. If we don't do that, it's not going to happen. If not, it's just going to be all talk and no action. We have to engage.
Great. So when you say that, I put both you and Yinka on the spot, that engagement, you will help us.
Well, I would also like to say that if you didn't meet her and didn't engage her, we won't be talking today.
Yes.
So it has to be engagement. And I would like to also suggest that maybe through her, we can sort of promote partnership. How many fellows of the academy are even watching the films? 2, how many would like to talk about a story that can lead to a content? And I would like to engage her on a content that we can both write. Full stop. Starting from there.
Great. So
I call it academy. I call it academy series.
Yeah, you're on the spot now. Yinka, you were going to say something?
No, Professor Ogunmola has captured it.
Fantastic.
Continuous engagement. We have to interact. We have to cross-pollinate. We have to exchange ideas constantly and regularly. That's the only way the writer can find inspiration in something that will be said in a conversation or something was expressed. That's the only way. Constant engagement and access.
Great. And of course, I know you haven't failed us in the past. You've been there. You are the president of Independent Producers. So we are in this set. We are in this trouser together. And of course, Kiki is not just an actor; she's a producer now too. I mean, and scriptwriter. So we're in it together.
Well, Kiki, I want to write a content with you. I already have the title. I mean, through Dr. Oduniyi, we must get together. The title is simple.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, and we should.
Okay, so I'm looking forward to it.
I will be delighted to share this with you.
All right, sir.
Fantastic. Right. Now, just 1 minute more before I ask Professor Babalola to give a vote of thanks. Professor Micah Osilike's hand is up. Are we able to try that experiment again and give him some 15 seconds to speak? Yes. Professor Osilike, are you there?
He can speak now, so he can just unmute himself.
I think he's unmuted.
Yes. I'm not speaking.
Okay, sir. All right, sir.
Yeah.
Your hand is raised. Okay, thank you very much, sir. So I must thank you. It's time that has run out for the webinar, but our engagement continues. So I thank the panelists, Professor Ogunmola, our esteemed past president. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing from your wealth of wisdom and knowledge. Kiki, my friend, thank you for being here for free. And doing this. And thank you, because we'll do much more. So I thank you for the future engagements. Again, Yinka, also my good friend, who are actually in the university together. Thank you very much. Also for being here for free. Thank you for also the future engagements. He's been working with us a lot, and we look forward to doing things more concretely. So we'll start with perhaps 1-800 Dial a Scientist, so that you connect us with the entertainment industry, and they can always dial in, and we can engage and share and do consultancies for free. You know, some of those.
There is a copyright on those subjects, so it's not for free.
I'm sure they will be happy to offer the money where money is available. I'm sure they'll be happy to.
We've got to grow from that pamphlet to a script. That's what we should do.
We will.
If every author on that would then work with a film writer and film producer, that would be fantastic. That's a lot of output.
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Professor Ekanem Breda, President, for opening up the session. And of course, my job really is not to thank you all, as I've tried to do, but is to ask Professor Jonathan Babalola, the Public Affairs Secretary of the Academy, Vice Chancellor Bowen University, to give a quick vote of thanks. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Oduniyi. You already did the work for me. So I will just say thank you to everybody once again. This is the last webinar series 9. I want to thank Rick Lovett, we thank Kiki, we thank Yinka and Professor Ogunmola. It's been an interesting time. And we want to thank all the participants, especially who have asked one question or the other. We thank the President of the Academy for putting this together. And we want to especially thank the Secretariat as well for all the work that have gone into these emails and the likes. So we are very grateful. So we are hoping that we will meet you during the series 10 of the last webinar series. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. So thank you all the audience. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice evening.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
so much. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kiki. Thank you, everyone.